Hi everyone, this is Dayu from EcommOps. I have an economics degree from Stanford, I have a Wharton MBA, and this is the EcommMBA Series where I talk about best practices in business strategy and how to apply it to your e-commerce business. Today I'm going to talk about product development, more specifically what you should be thinking about before you even commit to a lot of money in actual manufacturing runs. I have a lot of experiences both with my EcommOps business and also with this little guy. His name is Cody. It's a smart toy for young kids that we developed, and myself and two co-founders, we were actually on Shark Tank last year and walked away with $500,000 in a deal. So we're going to use Cody as a general framework in how you should be thinking about things in terms of product development. Now, even if you're drop shipping, this can have a lot of value for you because you actually have a step up. And so stay until the end, definitely if you're drop shipping, because I'm going to talk about how we take all these learnings and make it very applicable for you as well. The first thing you want to keep in mind when you think about product development is you actually want to de-risk. That is your highest priority. You know, obviously you're developing a new product or customizing a product to make money. However, actual manufacturing can get quite expensive. So unless you just have tons of money lying around, you probably want to do everything as cost efficiently and as low risk as possible. And that means doing your homework before you spend a lot of cash in manufacturing. Now, let's start with a general framework of how you should be thinking about product development even before any kind of production work. Now, note these arrows pointing between each other. It means that they're all interrelated and it should be an iterative process. The point is that you need to identify and understand your market and their needs. You need to validate that what you're making actually achieves those needs, and you want to make sure that it's actually feasible to deliver at reasonable enough cost. Now, you don't necessarily have to start at any one of these. However, for this video, we'll just start with identifying your market. Now, one point I want to make first is that when you think about this, you always want to have an initial hypothesis of, all three of these areas actually. If you feel like you can't have any point of view on this, then, quite honestly, you might actually want to rethink that. Is this kind of product idea, is this market idea something that you can actually reasonably accomplish? Always have a point of view so you can efficiently test those ideas. By the way, if you are currently dropshipping or running an e-commerce business, you already actually have a very big advantage on this because innately you have a lot of data and naturally a point of view already, and we'll talk about that later. Starting with the market, the first thing you want to do is identify what your market actually is. You want to be reasonably broad and making kind of as large as possible, but you also want to be specific enough so you can actually target the right needs. For example, you don't want to just target all females, right? Well, actually, if you can think of a product that all females all want, then you're going to be a billionaire, right? But most likely, you can't really target that broad. You want to target relatively more specific needs. However, to balance that out, you also don't want to be too specific. For example, females who like silk socks. I have no idea how big that market is, but something like that might be a little bit too specific, and you can actually meet their needs really well, but it might actually really limit the potential upside, even if it is very successful. For example, with Cody, what we want to do with Cody is that we wanted to create something that was hardware, it was educational, and it was fun and entertaining for kids that kids actually want to play with. Now, our hypothesis for the market is not just all parents, right? Our hypothesis is that the best market is going to be parents of kids anywhere from 0 to 7 years old, because we assume that something like this would be actually really interesting for kids of that age and really beneficial for these families, and therefore obviously these families are willing to actually purchase purchase this product because it brings them that value. And of course, parents with younger children, that's quite a sizable market. It's not too specific either. Now that you have your market identified, you want to really understand what their needs and pain points are that you want to address. Now, in dropshipping, there's a lot of impulse purchases. Now, that really works for kind of dropshipping simple generic products, but if you really want to building a product that has long-lasting value, you really want to have it have longer longevity, which means really achieving specific needs in your target market. At this point, if you start here first, don't focus so much on the features. That comes later. Really focus on what are the pain points, what are the needs in your target market. Now, so I'm gonna go over an example of how we thought about this for Cody. This is not actually everything, but kind of a summary example to show you how we thought about it and how you might think about your own product idea and market needs as well. For example, for Cody, our hypothesis was that parents of younger children had the following needs that were important. They were first too busy to entertain their child all the time. They wanted to keep track of what is actually best for their child. They might have found it difficult to track their child's interest and developmental process. They were concerned about too much screen time for their younger kids. They were worried about inappropriate content. And they found it difficult to maintain contact with children while not at home. Now, this list just didn't come from anywhere. It's not random, right? It's a hypothesis. However, it is actually based a lot on talking to parents, understanding their needs, and this is a short list of what we felt were the most common pain points for parents that we can address. And then you want to start validating your product and features against those needs. Not just your product, by the way, you actually want to start getting a little bit more specific into the actual feature ideas to address. I mean, basically, why does your product deserve to be in the market, right? What does it actually do? How does it actually address these important pain points? Now, again, this part could actually come first, right? You could come up with the product idea first and then test the market. So this is, again, an iterative process. You can start anywhere, and this is just where we're starting on next. Now, why do you want to do this, right? Because everything costs money. Every little feature costs money, and you want to, again, deliver as efficiently as possible at reasonable cost what your market actually needs. For example, for Cody, we already had these hypotheses on the left of what we thought the parents' needs are. So we actually tied feature ideas to these needs. So we talked about how we can make a maybe robot or AI technology that can proactively interact with kids. We were thinking about personalizing content depending on research on what they should be exposed to at their age. We want to be able to have the ability to keep track of kids learning and deliver reports to the parents. We wanted to have great content, stories and songs that are fun and educational, and we wanted to make it engaging without a screen at all by having a cute toy-like design. And then finally, we wanted to allow parents to communicate with kids from far away with an app. And again, all of these features tie very directly to the hypothesized needs that these parents have. So now on to the next step of assessing the feasibility and the cost. So the first step is can you do it, or can your team do it? So for Cody specifically, I have a lot of experience in technology, cloud, manufacturing. However, I realized very, very quickly that I can't really do this without really deep knowledge in education, because I wanted to make this educational. And also, if I want to make this a toy, I don't have any experience making toys. So the first step that I actually took was I found two co-founders. I have Chris, who is actually my friend at Stanford. He's launched thousands of toys. Like, he is a toy guy. He knows how to develop toys. And then we have William, who is actually my good friend from high school. He was a kindergarten teacher, and he has a master's degree from the Stanford School of Education. So he really understands education, especially for early children. And therefore, we covered all the bases that I knew were really important to make this product at its core. Now, it doesn't actually mean you need to find exactly these people, right? The idea is that you need to understand what are the core things that you really need to make something happen, because if you don't have that, it's really hard to just hire it out. And by the way, I do have a video on hiring that I'll link to below that explains why. But if you're missing a big piece, you really want to either find a co-founder, a partner, or partner with a service. I mean, for example, actually, if you don't know anything about manufacturing and fulfillment, then you might actually want to consider working with someone like us, working with EcommOps, to help you actually achieve that side of the business. If you can't do that though, and if you can't find the right partners, then I'll be completely honest, you might want to reconsider starting this, because it's gonna cost you a lot of money and it's gonna be too much risk. And if you don't have deep expertise in these areas that are core to this product, it's gonna be very difficult to get off the ground. The next step to this is have a basic understanding of the potential costs of your feature set. Now, at this point, it doesn't exactly need to be a list of all of the costs. It doesn't have to be that specific, but you at least need to have an idea. So for example, for Cody, with all these features put together, just given our experience, we realize that if we're going to achieve all of these things, we're going to have to sell this product for hundreds of dollars, which we really didn't think that a parent of a younger child would be really willing to pay for. So this first thought just made us realize that, hey, we can't do all of this, and we really have to prioritize what we're actually doing. And we need to make sure that everything put together, we can actually sell at a price point that customers are actually willing to pay for. Remember one thing at this point, it doesn't matter what your dream product is. All that matters is that you're developing a product that solves customer pain points at a price point that they're actually willing to pay for. It's not easy, but that is your ultimate goal. How do you do that? You ask your customers or potential customers. Now, this is where we start putting all three of these pieces together. And don't forget that when you think about your market, these are real people. I mean, this is not a concept. They're real people who are willing to share their opinions, especially for something that, they actually might believe is going to solve some of their problems or improve their lives. And so we used a survey and also some potential customer interviews as well. So specifically what we used was SurveyMonkey. I do actually really recommend something like SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey creates great surveys, but they also have this feature where if you don't already have like a mailing list, for example, for customers, you can actually pay a relatively reasonable amount of money to send the survey to respondents that fit into your demographics. So for us specifically, we send this survey to a couple hundred of parents, random parents that had kids between the ages of 0 and 7. Now, it is actually really important to do this, right? Because you don't want to send a survey to just random people, random families, right? Because they could be completely inaccurate because they have different needs. So you want to be able to target the right people for learning about insights about what they need. All right, so now I'm going to talk about some of the basic insights that we actually got from this survey. Now, this is not everything. It's a much longer survey than this, but I just want to talk about some key points and not make this too long. One of the most important questions that we asked is, as a parent of a child between 0 and 7 years old, select which of these you find challenging about meeting your child's needs outside the classroom, because again, this is a product that's going to be at home. We basically asked about all of our hypothesized pain points in this question and had parents rank them. And it just became very, very clear actually that parents, they might have cared about some of these, but the most two important things they really cared about is, one, existing sources of content may have objectionable or inappropriate content. And 2, there is too much screen time with children using phones and tablets. Now, these 2 are really big outliers, and it just became clear to us. And by the way, we weren't even sure about this before we sent the survey. It became clear to us that these are the 2 pain points that we really should prioritize first, and then all of the other ones, while they could be important, they should be deprioritized. This next question is, we actually asked parents that we describe the idea of the product to them, and we asked the highest price that you would actually pay for this product. And this is a histogram with dollar ranges in the bottom of how many respondents for each. So this makes it pretty obvious that we do not want to have this product have like a $300 plus price point. Now, obviously, parents are gonna want to as cheap as possible. But we wanted kind of somewhere in the middle, so we kind of decided, okay, we definitely wanted to make this slightly higher than $100 range to be able to actually appeal to at least a sizable amount of the market. Oh, and actually, I want to share this question as well, because stuff like this is actually a really good practice to do as well, is that if you have any design ideas, then just have, some simple drawings, graphics, and just start testing these out. There's an example, we actually tested 6 different designs. This is actually cut down from like 50 different designs, but 6 different designs just that, ask which designs do you think that your child is most likely going to play with? And number 5 was the winner, and it was actually very close to what we actually came up with. The only thing that we did was actually add a little antenna on the top, because it makes it look cuter, and some parents like to use it as teethers as well, and it's all food safe silicone, so they can actually do that. So therefore, from this survey, we came up with a more refined idea of Cody. We really focused on the 2 most important pain points. Parents really cared about reducing screen time, and so that's why it was so important for us to make this as engaging of a toy as possible. Design's super cute, and we have a lot of content on it that is actually meant to be extra engaging because it's all voiced with a human voice, a real expressive human voice, as opposed to a robotic voice, like something like Alexa, for example. And the second most important point, parents are really worried about inappropriate content they can't really control. So therefore, we really focused on taking this content from a library of classic stories, fables, like just content that is good for children and that parents feel like they could really trust. Everything that parents found less important, we either just took away or just reduced the complexity of the feature. For example, we actually kind of expected that parents, they might actually have wanted more of a interactive, like proactive device that can kind of like entertain their child independently. But we actually found, both from the survey and talking to parents, that especially at that age, like parents don't necessarily want to just leave their children alone. So that's actually less important for parents. So, and by the way, like making a interactive robot with AI technology, that's incredibly difficult. So, thankfully that wasn't a big demand, because that actually was able to reduce our costs a lot. We still have some interactivity. We still have some communications between a phone app and a parent and a child. However, it's a lot more manual as opposed to having some fancy AI technology on the inside of the product. With all of this, we were able to cut down and refine the feature set, and we were able to get the cost down so that we can actually safely retail it profitably at something around $99 to like $125, just depending on the sales season. And then we actually did some real tests to make sure that kids love it. Now, what we actually did is actually just made a quick prototype. This prototype was a little bit expensive. It probably cost like under $1,000, but this is kind of a complex product, but it didn't really have an app or anything, but it was kind of just more of just making sure the form factor, making sure this idea actually appealed to children. It obviously did, and we did a bunch of these, and this is just one example of the reactions that we got.
I like this part.
You like this part?
Yeah, it's so Mm-hmm. Thank you for raising your hand, Dayu. What do you like about this?
I like the whole thing.
You like the whole thing?
And this is kind of an important point as well. After you get your refined feature set, if possible, you should always try to get a prototype and actually test it, actually try it out with your target audience to make sure that they actually want and enjoy what you are making. In terms of the success of Cody, so this is not meant to be a brag video. Like, I'm not talking about big numbers. Cody is doing well, but we want to show you the success by, customers just really love it. Like, parents love Cody. Here's some quote examples. I mean, parents are talking about how they play with Cody all the time. It's just like part of their lives. They're not using iPads anymore, and it's something that is really been a beneficial part of the family. And this is actually what you want to see with the product, right? Like, you want your customers to be happy that they bought the product. For one thing, they're going to tell other customers to buy it as well. However, like, this is a true test of actually if your product is actually working. Obviously sales as well, but I'm going to believe that if a product or service brings incredible value to the client or the customer, like, that's where you're going to receive economic dividends from it. But the biggest first step is, do you actually bring value to your customer base? Now, if you are a dropshipper or your e-commerce store, but you have your own inventory but no custom product, you might be thinking, oh, all this is too complicated. But no, you actually have a huge step up. If you think about all three of these areas. So first, let's start with identifying your market and the needs. If you have been running a reasonably successful dropshipping store, you have data on your audience through Facebook, you probably have a sizable mailing list, you probably have a Facebook page, you probably have engagement, you have customers that you can send surveys to, and most likely you actually have a good understanding of their customers, because they're probably sending you emails and maybe complaining about stuff, but still you have an understanding of your customers. So that step is already a lot easier. In terms of validating your product and features, well, like, most likely you have experience selling products, right? You know what your customers like or dislike. You know the strengths and weaknesses of your current product line, and you know what can improve. This is probably where, like, if you already have a dropshipping store, you probably just want to build something similar because it's so much easier that way. But this is kind of where, if you want to extend a new product that's related to your brand and related to your niche, this is going to be a lot easier for you. And then finally, in terms of assessing feasibility and cost, well, if you're seeing any kind of success, you probably already have you yourself have experience doing this, or you have a partner or you have a service, whatever it might be, you have that all set. You're gonna have a basic idea of what your product COGS are going to be. Now, obviously, it depends on how complicated you want improvements to be, but still, you have a basic idea, or at least in the order of magnitude. And most likely, you're gonna have suppliers or agents that can actually work with you to customize your product or develop something new. And of course, if you don't actually, we at EcommOps, we specialize in helping dropshippers, small e-commerce brands take it to the next level, and past stuff just like private labeling, but really working with you to customize products and even taking to the next step and actually developing something new. Now, my suggestion to you, though, again, like, you want to de-risk. Now, obviously, Cody itself was a completely new product. However, if you think about it, technology is not completely new, right? At the core of Cody, it has speaker technology. It is in ABS plastic, so it's a toy. It has an app. There's some cloud technology, but that stuff is all solved for, and myself and my co-founders all have experience in that. So although it seems like a very new product, it was actually relatively lower risk for us. Now, for you, if you're running a store already, again, you want to de-risk. So here's what I suggest: as opposed to doing something that is completely out there, completely new, take the first step by just, how can you address the market that you know already. How can you address their needs with either a significant customization or a completely new product? And we at EcommOps, if you're interested and you're ready to get there, we're happy to talk to you. So we'll link to us below, www.ecommops.com. Chat with us, and we'll see what we can do together. So all right, guys, hope that was helpful. If you like this video, if you like this series, definitely subscribe. There'll be a lot more to come, probably every month or so. And join our Facebook group as well, the EcommOps Facebook group, where we do a lot of discussions around operations and logistics. But until next time, this is Dayu from EcommOps. This is the EcommMBA Series. See you guys later.